Hi there, it's Kristen from k.becca, and today we're going to be doing a little watercoloring with a somewhat unexpected craft supply. For this project, I'll be using elements from my new Whimsy Leaves designs, and the Digital Stamp Plus Border Cuts set includes lots of different leaves like these, plus 3 hand-lettered sentiments and coordinating cut lines for all of the elements in the set, so you can print and cut them on digital die cutting machines that have this option. In addition to the digital stamps and border cuts, this set includes a bonus set of 4 printable A2 size card fronts, so you can print them, cut them out with scissors or a paper trimmer, and color them with anything from crayons to colored pencils to watercolors. I've already made cards from 3 of the printable card front designs. I printed this first card onto Strathmore Bristol vellum paper and colored it with Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers, which blend beautifully on this paper. I printed the other 2 designs onto Hammermill 80-pound cardstock and foiled them using a Mink hot foiling machine. I used the Deco Foil brand reactive foil in rose gold for this card, and for the other card I used Deco Foil pewter reactive foil. This printable is a patterned background that you can add your own die cut or print and cut sentiments to, and I foiled and cut the Hello sentiment from the Whimsy Leaves set and added it to this card using dimensional foam adhesive. I used my laser printer to print all of these card fronts before working with them because laser toner won't smear when used with water-based coloring mediums, and it's also necessary for DIY hot foiling. For this project, I'll be using the 4th printable card front from the set, and this has the Thinking of You sentiment on the front. I printed this onto Strathmore Bristol vellum, which works really well with my laser printer because it has such a smooth surface. After I printed it, I just cut the piece of paper in half with a paper trimmer, so I still have some areas around the design where I can either test colors or put my hand to hold the piece in place as I'm working. We'll be watercoloring this card, and I'm going to use Crayola Super Tips washable markers as my watercolors for this project. I have a set of 50 colors that I purchased for under $10, and I've done regular coloring with these markers, but I want to see how well these water-based markers work for watercoloring too. Here are the marker colors that I've chosen for the card, and I really wish I could tell you exactly which colors they are. Color names are listed on the back of the box, but some of the markers are so close in color to each other that's kind of tough to decide which color a marker is. The markers don't have the color names on them anywhere either, so I think that I'm using coral pink and mango, and maybe lilac, olive green, pale pink, and light brown. But you can use whatever colors you'd like. I went with these because I'm going for a light pastel-y sort of look. For the background, I want a light peachy color. There aren't any markers in the set that are exactly what I'm going for, so I'm going to combine 2 colors, the light pink and the mango-y yellow. I'm working with a silicone craft mat, so I'm just going to scribble the markers directly onto the mat. I did a few rounds of testing to get just the right color, and I used one of the side margins on the printed page to test the colors, so I've cut that off so I can start fresh. I'm going to scribble a large area of the light pink color onto my craft mat because this will be the dominant color. Then I'll just scribble on the littlest bit of yellow. The ratio of pink to yellow is around 10:1, I'd say. After I'm done scribbling color, I'll add some water with a spray bottle. I sprayed 4 or 5 times to dilute the color pretty well, but you can use less water if you want more concentrated color. After that, I'll take a small round paintbrush, this is a number 5, and I'll mix the 2 colors together, but not completely because I want there to be some variation in the color as I add it to the card. This is just about the color that I'm going for, but I want to add a little bit more pink. I'm scribbling it on an area that's wet from the spray bottle, and you can see that the color starts to come out of the tip when I do that. I can scribble it onto paper to get the color to start coming back into the tip, but I'd recommend that you avoid coloring the markers in wet areas because I worry that one of these times the color won't come back into the tip and the marker will be ruined. Okay, after the colors are mixed and ready, I'm going to take my spray bottle and give the card a good spritz, enough to cover the whole design with water. If you notice that the paper has dried in areas as you're working, you can just spray on more water as you go. Now I'm just going to start painting around all of the leaves. You can see as I work that I've got some variation going in the colors since I didn't mix the colors together completely, and that's just what I want. There's a nice range from more yellowy pink to pinkish to peach. I'll add more color in some areas as I work and use very little color in others for additional variation. I'm not being too careful and I'm getting some watercolor inside the leaves here and there. It's nothing to worry about, though I do use a paper towel to absorb the color in areas where I accidentally add a lot of color inside the leaves. I just don't want there to be so much of that peachy color on a leaf that it changes the color that I'm going to add over it. When I'm finished painting the background, I'll wipe up any excess watercolor from my craft mat using a paper towel. I could leave the card to air dry at this point, but I'm going to come in with a heat tool and speed up the process so we can move on to the next step. I'm just going to dry the watercolor enough that there aren't any wet spots or areas where the color will run, but the paper still feels a little damp to the touch. You can dry it completely, but you don't need to for this step of the project. Next, I'm going to test and see how well the marker color moves when I add it to the paper and color it out with a wet brush. It actually moves really well after I add water. I also wanted to see how well the color moved after leaving it on the paper for a period of time, because I thought it might soak in and dry and not move as well when I added water if I left it for a few hours or so. But I'm happy to report that I tested several different marker colors and left them for almost 24 hours before adding water, and they still moved just as well as they did when I added water immediately after coloring the marker on the paper. So it's great to know that we have the option of adding the marker, leaving the paper for a while, and coming back to watercolor hours later. I've only tested this on the Strathmore Bristol paper though, so just a heads up that your results may not be the same if you use a different brand of paper. So instead of making the leaves all leafy green, I'm actually going to turn most of them into flowers and use one color to color the flower portion and another for the leaves. First step is pink, and I'll take the marker and add it to one side of the petal or leaf. You can add it to whichever side you like. I'm kinda sorta imagining the light coming down from the top, so I'm adding color to the side of the petal or leaf that I'm imagining would be on the shadow side, but I'm not being terribly consistent about it. I'm just doing what I think looks good. And after I've added color on all of the petals of one flower, I'll come in with a wet paintbrush and blend the color out. We don't want to use much water here at all. I'm actually tapping the end of the paintbrush onto a dry paper towel before I go to the paper to get rid of some of the excess water that's on the brush. And I rinse the brush when the color starts building up on it so I can come back in with a clean brush and get a nice shadow to light look on each petal. I had a certain color in mind for the leaves, but there wasn't a color that matched it in this marker set. So I'm going to mix this orangey brown color with the olive green color to get the color that I want. First, I'll add the orangey brown about half of the way along one side of the leaf. Then I'll come in with the green and draw right over top of it, and I'll add the green along the whole length of the leaf on one side. So there's about twice as much green as there is orangey brown. I'll blend out the colors with a wet paintbrush to get a color that's much closer to what I had in mind. I'll continue this process for the rest of the flowers, alternating between pink, lilac, and yellow for the flowers, and I'll make one of the elements just leaves to add some variation. After I completed a few of the flowers, I just ended up going in and adding the marker to the rest of the elements, and then I came back in and watercolored them. It speeds things up a little bit to do it this way since you don't have to worry about the marker drying and not being able to move the color around after adding water. Just be sure to rinse your brush between colors as you work. After I'm finished watercoloring all of the elements, I'll use my heat tool again to dry everything. This time, I want to completely dry the paper. After it's dry, I'll cut off the areas around the design using a paper trimmer, and I'll attach it to a pre-cut A2 size card base using double-sided tape. I'd normally use a double-sided adhesive runner here, but for some reason the brand that I use does not like to stick to this paper, so I just use double-sided tape instead. Here are the other cards that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and you can find a full list of supplies used in all of these cards in the description area below, or in the area below the video if you're watching on k.becca.com. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more watercolor card making projects, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.